Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. So I just want to have a chat with you about data, sort of why it's important and sort of how I look at it, because I think when we're talking about data, it's really living in reality, perfectly frank. Sometimes though, there are people who just want to ignore data and sort of want to see things the way that they want to see it, regardless of what data or facts say. So I want to just jump right in and we'll see sort of why we're talking about this today. We're going to start with seatbelts, and it's funny because I grew up in the 80s and when seatbelt laws first started rolling out, there was a lot of people that were against it, saying that it's against my freedom. And if there's a seatbelt law in a certain city, I'm going to have to drive around the city, etc. And, one of the things that with seatbelts is actually a serious issue, because the leading cause of death for Americans age 1 to 54 is actually car crashes, essentially. So we're talking about something actually really quite important. And here, the estimate is that maybe we've saved, 375,000 lives, something of that nature, by having people wear seatbelts. And it's interesting because I recommend you guys watch this movie. You haven't had a chance. It's called Tucker. He wanted to introduce a whole bunch of, car innovations, but at the time, car companies were pushing back on it. Just watch. I don't want to ruin it for you, but I think it's a really, really interesting story. And we're starting with seatbelts because, unfortunately, and I don't cover this issue like all day, every day, because sadly, you could cover it every day if you wanted to, and this would be gun deaths in USA. You could literally cover every day because there's always something. I just want to mention this one because I noticed a couple of things that were disturbing about this particular one. And just read the headlines with me, guys. So, police chief tells NBC a sense of resentment may have fueled Nashville shooter's attack at former school. Okay, so maybe the attacker was unhappy with the school. Resentment. Another one is police release body cam footage, investigate motive in Nashville school shooting. Okay, so we're trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here? Why does the person want to do it? And then if you jump over to Fox News, and this is a part that gets disturbing, and you'll see why. Nashville school shooter Audrey Haley, who is 28-year-old transgender former student who opened fire at school. Over at Fox, they keep trying to really emphasize that the person was transgender, and therefore that's why they're shooting, and they keep running that headline over and over and over again. And yes, it was a transgender person, but the issue is that you're selectively choosing which stories to lead with, and you're selectively choosing which facts. So, for example, if in this situation, if Fox News had say, hey, it's a 30-year-old white male, mass shooting kills 20 people, they wouldn't state that. They would just say shooter, or they wouldn't run the story at all. And the reason why I think this is important is because it's sort of what they're trying to do. They're trying to push a particular type of narrative. And you could argue lots of, media outlets do that. But the point is that I try to look at a holistic thing. That's why, guys, I read everything. And because it gives you a fuller picture of what's going on. And, I'll give you another example. So here, just to counterpoint, read the headline here. Authorities identify 17-year-old man as suspected gunman in Lunar New Year mass shooting. Now, for reading this headline, you wouldn't necessarily know that the person was Asian, right? There was an Asian. I think there was like a couple of shootings, and usually Asian people don't do this in the USA. But the question I would ask you is that is that necessary to put Asian in the title? Would it be necessary to put Black or white or Latino or whatever? Is it necessary? And if you are going to do it, if you're going to put the say race or ethnicity of the person, you should do it for all headlines, not just for some. And this is just sort of like I'm trying to emphasize that I don't just selectively show stuff, right? I've shown you guys this is someone that looks like me. Went in and shot people. It happens. Not as often as say other groups, but it happens, and I'm not just making random things up. And so, it's just sort of why I wanted to sort of like, how can I say, if you want to make decisions in life, be it in your business, be it politics, be it any number of things, you try your best to stay calm and cool, look at numbers, look at data, make decisions based on that. A simple example would be, let's say I run a business and I, trying to figure out which cars to make. And literally the numbers are staring me in front of the face that maybe customers buy blue cars by, 5 times more than red cars. It should be obvious that I should keep making blue cars, that they sell more. But if I, have a bias that, I have to make black cars because, black cars are awesome and I love black cars, right? But the data doesn't show that in your sales. And this is sort of something I just want to emphasize that it's a real thing. People sort of ignore what data says and things like that. So I know already people already turned off their mind if you start talking about this issue. They think it's political and stuff like that. No, I'm literally looking at data, and I try my best on these things, guys. How many U.S. mass shootings have there been in 2023? So let's look at data. We're at 131 already. We're in, what are we in, March, April. The last couple of years, 2020, 2021, 2022, this is mass shooting. It depends how you define mass shooting, of course. I understand that. But, either way, the shootings are going up. It's obvious trend. Again, we're just looking at data. And it depends if this issue is important to you or not. I do think it's an important issue. Like I said, I don't like talking about all day, every day, because unfortunately in USA, the numbers keep going up, but, things don't change. And it's frustrating, to be further frank. Sometimes people hurt themselves. Sometimes it's hurting someone else. You look at the worst mass shootings in the USA. You guys can see it here. So, it was Vegas, Florida, Virginia. It's all over the country. There's a bunch in Texas. I'm not, Texas, but it's in other states as well. I'm just saying these are sort of the mass shooting ones, and these would be the worst. But it's all over the country, and it's all groups of people. So it's not like any one. I think, you compare it internationally. Right, international comparison of gun-related killings as a percentage of all homicides. So we just have way more, gun homicides in USA. 79% of all homicides. Vast majority of them are gun-related. UK, it's only 4%. Australia, 13%. Canada, 37%. It's obvious, right? These are just simple numbers, and I think the reason why people who have particular points of view on this stuff don't like to look at numbers because the numbers are so obvious. And so you try to ignore this kind of stuff. But again, this is an interesting one. I didn't even know it was this bad. Top 10 civilian gun-owning countries. So this is per firearms per 100 residents. So in USA, I guess among civilians, this is a 2018 survey, there's 120 firearms per 100 people. So there's more guns than people. It's like, what? It's crazy. To me, that's crazy. And also, too, to be really frank, guys, I'm totally fine. I repeat, I'm totally fine with actually people owning guns. I'm completely fine with that. I know there's several people that say, for example, you live out in the rural areas, you may need to protect your farm against wolves or other things that may come and hurt your farm. That's a real thing. Other thing as well. This is actually real. Some parts of like the Midwest, they have like what's the right word to say? Too many certain types of animals, like wild turkey's like a real thing, or maybe there's like too many deer, or maybe whatever. I think that's actually a real thing. So that would be one. Or some people like to do target practice. I have a very, very close friend. He was in the Navy. His son is in the Marine Corps, and they like to go out and target practice. Like I have zero problem with that. I want to be very clear on these kind of things. So I have no problem with this sort of stuff. But I say here's but I do care about gun deaths, and I don't think it's crazy. So. One of the issues is like, how can we be reasonable? How can we talk about facts? And how can we have a civil conversation about these things? Because I do think it matters. And if you guys understand, I'm just looking at numbers. So, gun rights groups, they spend a ton of money. You can see it here, right? You guys can see this stuff. They outspend the gun control groups, and it's been like that for years. And it is what it is. If you ask Americans, just average people, what do you think? 57 people say more strict laws, right? 32% keep it as now. 10% say less strict, right? So the majority is on the side of we should have, some change in laws. And I want to give you guys some sort of just numbers and ways to think about. I live in Korea, you probably know. I lived in several states in USA, I think around 15 states in USA and several cities. So I know what it's like in USA, and I've lived in multiple countries. I'm just showing you this stuff because I want to just sort of show you that life can be different than the way that it is now in USA. It can be. It doesn't have to be like the way that it is where someone goes into school and shoots it up. Unfortunately, it just doesn't have to be that way, but it is. I'll just give you examples here. So crime levels in the United States compared to Korea, 4 times higher crime in USA than Korea. I'm just telling you guys, when I try to explain life here and tell you guys it's really safe, like some people don't really believe me. So I just show you numbers. And plus I live here. I just tell you, it's like really, really safe in comparison. Drug abuse, 46 times higher in USA than Korea. Here's the thing that's really interesting. So there are 271 times more police officers in USA than Korea, yet we have less crime in Korea. And it's actually pretty noticeable. It doesn't feel like the police is really here. There's not a strong police presence here yet. We have a lot less crime. 27% more crime per 1,000. Homicide rate 62% higher. Murder rate 10 times higher. And it's like, it's across the board. It's like everything is higher. And you could like look at another chart as well. This is sort of like, how much do you worry about crime and stuff like that. And USA, it's all moderates, right? Because here, mean that you're moderately worried. And it's going to depend on the city that you live. I can tell you guys, when I was in college, I lived in Philadelphia. I had bars in my window. That was a normal thing in Philadelphia because it's not a safe city. And you can't go at least when I was there, you can't go out at night past 10 p.m. It wasn't safe. It's real. It's not just making stuff up. And this is because I went to the University of Pennsylvania, and actually they would do student orientations for new students coming in, especially international students. Because if you're coming in from another country, you don't realize like how unsafe the USA is. And they basically have to say, go in groups, be careful of this kind of stuff. And if, come in place, just say, for example, say you're coming from Korea or something like that, and you never had this concept of like someone will come and mug you or something like that. And a lot of it you could argue is drug related. You could certainly argue that. I don't know. So this is problem people who are using or dealing drugs. It's interesting because in the 80s, there used to be a lot more talk about like cracking down on the drug war and stuff like that. And I don't know why we don't talk about that much anymore in USA. Maybe drug use is down. I could look that up, etc. And again, that would be statistics based, but across the board, are you worried about your car being stolen? This kind of stuff. It's all going to be higher in USA, and it's something that my wife and I always joke about. Is it's real. You can go to Starbucks and you can just leave your phone sitting on a table in Korea, for like half an hour or whatever. No one's going to mess with it. Like USA, say go to New York City, just for example. Because New York City, I think that used to be or could still be the highest place where your phone's likely to get stolen. But you leave it on the table and it'll probably be gone in like 10 minutes. It's a real thing. So everything's different. And I'm just showing these numbers because I want you to understand that like, when you see the sort of the way things are in USA, it doesn't have to be that way. There are other places in the world where they're not out shooting up each other all the time. This is life expectancy, right? Countries by life expectancy. Hong Kong is a leader. Then you got Japan, Macau, Switzerland, Singapore, Italy, Spain, Australia. The reason why I put the say top 10 is because people like to say, oh well, Asian people just live longer, and that one irritates me the most because it's like it's so ludicrous. So if you just think it's just Asian people live longer, then how does that explain Switzerland, Italy, or Spain, right? There are differences in cultures, right? Differences in food, differences in how you treat each other, etc. And it all adds up. Differences in healthcare. But there's a real problem in USA. In Korea's here at number 11. But there's a real problem in USA. Life expectancy is at number 46. And I consider these pretty important numbers for quality of life, like living a long time, living a healthy life. And I know people get mad when you talk about this kind of stuff, but I'm just showing you guys numbers and trying my best. And I bring this up all together because remember I talked about data, with what things we focus on, what things we don't focus on. This is actually a pretty big story. Boy Scouts defeat appeals of sex abuse settlement plan. And this is, they're going to try to declare bankruptcy here, the Boy Scouts are. And it's going to be like one of the largest bankruptcies, if not the, in U.S. history. And it's like barely in the headlines. And there's like 82,000 people who are accusing the Boy Scouts of child abuse, these kind of things. It's like massive. It's barely in the headlines. And so I'm bringing this one up is because, again, people are selectively choosing what they talk about and what they don't talk about. But I do think this is a big one. And I'll talk about this one as well, which we talk about on the channel, the whole banking crisis thing. You can read the headline. SVB management and banking rules put on trial at Senate hearing. And there's two views that you could have on this one. There's many views, but I'll just give you the couple ones. So the Democrats, they're going to say that because we've eased banking regulations, then therefore the bankers essentially, do corrupt things again and ruin our banking system. And the Republicans are going to say, well, because the Democrats are in charge, therefore we have a problem. So I laugh because I don't think it's a good argument. But, I understand if you have that worldview, you can totally go with that. But I want to ask yourself just a logical question. Think of it this way. You can read it here. Back-to-back bank collapses came after deregulatory push, meaning that when you deregulate things, bankers are going to go a certain way. Same way that if you don't require people to wear seatbelts, chances are more people are going to die in car wrecks. Or say, for example, if you increase speed limits in certain places, chances are you're going to have more car crashes. Or if you say remove stoplights, right, chances are you're going to have more car crashes, etc. So for me, I think it's obvious that deregulation, was part of the cause of these kind of things. But again, if you you can choose whatever you like, you want to believe. I gave you the two. It's the Republicans are going to say, basically, it's the Democrats' fault. They're all in charge. Therefore, SVB collapsed, right? And it's California. It's all Democrats. And then the Democrats will say, well, we've had deregulation, which was led by Republicans. However, it was bipartisan, and that led to the collapse. So you can see which one is more logical. To me, it's obvious, but people put on their blinders and believe whatever they want to believe, and I get it. And again, this is sort of like I try my best to look at data and understand the world, and I think one of the things that, and I stress with you guys, that keeps me sort of not stressing out about life and the world all the time is because I understand what's going on, and I try to help you too. And the reason why I put it in that way is because oftentimes people who get really, really frustrated with life is because they don't take the time to understand, right? So, for example, let's say you're at your work and you're trying to get a promotion, and you just, God, why can't I get that promotion? Why can't I get that raise? And you see other people around you getting raises and promotions, and you don't take the time to really understand why someone else got picked over you, why someone else is moving above you for whatever reason, right? It could be any number of things. It could be they have better family connections. It could be they turn in twice enough work as you. It could be that they made really good friends with the boss. Any number of things. Like you try to your best to figure out why the world does what it does, and then you say, okay, that's what's going on in the world. Therefore, I need to go with that. I need to go with what works. And it is kind of the same thing. I know it's kind of a philosophical show today or whatever, but it's the kind of same thing when I look at data, be it the car thing is like, oh, okay, blue cars sell more than red. I'm just trying to figure out, okay, what works? It's a pragmatic approach. You can talk about the gun issue you like. So let's say, for example, someone proposes, hey, if we add an extra security guard at all schools in America, that will solve the problem. Just for example, we're talking about if you want to prevent, say, deaths at schools. And then we do that. We spend the money to put a guard, an extra guard everywhere. And then it turns out that, wow, look at that. After, 6 months, the gun deaths have gone down. Then obviously it worked. It's no political agendas whatsoever. You tried something, you look at the data, did it work, did it not work? And that's sort of how I think about the world, be it business, be it politics, anything, right? Any number of things. I know it's frustrating because to me it sounds so obvious, right? It's just like, look at numbers. Did it work? Did it not work? And what, I get really frustrated, guys. It's just really frustrating. If you understand, like, I try, it's like, the world can be frustrating. So look at this one, another example. McKinsey starts eliminating 1,400 roles this week in a rare round of job cuts. I see that headline, and I also see, you can see here, Disney's firing more people as well. And so, like, this kind of stuff I warned you guys about, and sort of this, again, data reiterates it, that companies are going to be cutting back. And so that's why I talk about all the time, on the channel, that just make sure you're secure in your job and make sure you're okay, because it looks like companies are cutting back, right? I'm using data and sort of trends and sort of what I've been predicting, it's coming true. Other more data, for example, I guess there is a 29% vacancy rate in San Francisco. So again, using data to understand it. So it looks like the commercial real estate market is just really collapsing. They just can't find people to rent. San Francisco and New York in particular are really struggling. You can see here, it's interesting. The vacancy rates just keep going up. This is from 2019 forward. And you put that together with people like Elon Musk who don't want to pay the rent, which we've been talking about. I think he quit paying in January, something like that. And you can take away more data. Again, it's all data related. This is, and when people say, how do you do well the market, stuff like that, and I look at data. That's what it is. And you try to stay neutral. I don't need to I don't have to be, how can I say, my biases of the world don't have to be right. The same way, if I love security guards and think that's the only way to stop school deaths, right? It can be any number of things. Just look at data. That's I keep emphasizing over and over again. So, like, for example, here, what's going on in the housing market? So, if you just look at data, it looks like Miami was the one that went up the most this past year. So the housing market went up like 13.8% year over year, which is crazy. And then another one was like Tampa, was like a couple Florida ones. And then you have Charlotte, which is North Carolina and Atlanta. So these are some of the big ones. So it's like the Southeast was the ones that were, going up in price the most. And so then when we look at data, it looks like house prices are coming down. And if I had to bet, like in those markets that went up the most, they're probably most likely going to maybe come down. But I don't know. I'd have to look at more data on that and see what people are doing. However, just looking at data, if I had to guess, I would say housing market's probably going to cool off. We know that interest rates are going up. Now, when will the bottom of the housing market be? I don't know. It could be 4 or 5 months from now. It could be a year from now. I don't know. I don't know. But I can kind of guess which direction it's going. And I think commercial real estate will also continue to, experience vacancy rates. But there'll come a point to where when, vacancies get so high that the landlords have to lower rents enough to where it gets become attractive again. But we're in a new era where, people can work from home. So I know we talked about multiple things on this particular channel. I just had a lot of stuff in my mind I just want to share with you guys. And again, it's all about understanding the world and not like freaking out one way or the other. And also, too, to be perfectly frank, like some of these issues are extremely important, be it real estate, be it gun deaths, be it overall health, these kind of stuff. And I personally want to have solutions to these things. I don't want to have our banks failing, every 10 years. And so I would like to prevent that. So I have my point of view on these things, but I don't just have a point of view based on nothing. I don't just pull, crap out of thin air. I literally look at data and facts and understand how the world works, and this is sort of how I come to my conclusions on these things. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on any number of things that I showed you guys. If anything makes sense or doesn't make sense, let me know. I do appreciate your time, and I'll catch you in the next video.